un cheval. So the point is, you can hear generally the direction you're in, you can hear the R. You don't hear this R in many other places, do you? Because, for example, if verbs have an R in the middle of them, we tend to swap the verb around. So, dire, I was saying, je disais, nous disons, we get rid of the R. Lire, to read, je lisais, yeah, vous lisez. Écrire, écrivant, écrivez, we kind of play with the verb to avoid the R. There are exceptions, I always quote courir, to run, but the point is, we can generally say, if we're hearing R's a lot of the time, we are in the future. Okay, so, with that in mind, now let's look at the future past and the conditional past. So I always say, when we're doing these, we've got to go, now let me get this the right way round because I'm facing you, we've got to go to the right, then to the left. Okay, I hope that's the right way around, to the right, then to the left. So the future blocks that you are familiar with, if you're not familiar with them, can you look down below or to the side at the irregular future video. So the future blocks are ones where we don't use the whole verb. In full, we use these little blocks and then we add our normal re, ra, ron, or re, whatever, future or conditional endings. And you know these ones, ser will be be, or will be have, ir will be go, etc. So if you hear these on their own, with nothing else, you are dealing with a will or a would. You could just as well say it's another, you know, okay. So you could just as well say that, if I hear an R, I'm in the future, I'm in the will or the would, I'll find out which. But the fact is, if you hear that, the cost of an iPad hurtling towards the ground, I can't even tell you how frightening that was. So the light is better. Good. So if we have these verbs anyway, then a third word. So if you hear j'aurais, and then we've gone into the past. We hear something that sounds like the future, then a past word. So I'm going into the future, then into the past. So for example, j'ai fini, you recognise fini, j'aurais fini. I'm hearing a re for the future, then a fini past. So I will have finished, or I would have finished. So this is something else you're going to be hearing. Listen as well. When do you normally hear three? J'ai fini, I have finished, or j'avais fini, which we've talked about is the further back past, the had. So if you're hearing something that's a little bit future and then a little bit past, boom, boom, pulling you in two directions, I won't do that too much because the video will fall, the iPad will fall, then this is going to be telling you that we're in one of those compound tenses. So the anterior past, the future past, I will have done, or I would have. Same again, if you're not familiar with how these are formed, please look across there, please find the video. I think it'll be that side, the way that the camera is. Look down the side, find the videos, and look at the one on where we have compounds. So for example, I will have gone, je serais allé, so we're using the verb to be in the middle. So that's its own thing, that's something you guys need to work on if you're not comfortable with doing that, but the point is, listen, you can hear the R in the middle, yeah, je serais, whatever, okay, so the R tells you we've gone future and then we've gone past, okay. Now, the subjunctive generally doesn't change. If you need to produce a subjunctive when you're speaking, that's kind of okay, that's a method you can find, and we have those videos. But when you're hearing the subjunctive, it is just a question of associating the subjunctive with the verb you're using so that you get what it means. So if I use the subjunctive with you and you recognise the verb, it's not really going to change your perception of what it means, okay? It's not like when you need to speak French and you have to decide whether or not it's subjunctive. Again, if you're not familiar with the subjunctive, please have a look. So for example, if I said, Luc veut que nous mangions. Luc wants us, and then you'd know mangions. Okay, I thought we eat was nous mangeons, but whatever. Okay, so you would generally work out the sense. Bearing in mind then that some subjunctives are going to play with your soft and hard. So for example, je veux que tu Viens, I want you to come, as opposed to tu viens. So you're hearing that hard sound, okay? Je veux que tu lises, I want you to read. Oh, I thought you read was tu lis. But it's not in hearing a subjunctive that it's going to change your perception of the sentence. The first verb will give you a lot more. Je veux que, I want that, you, and then you'll recognise lise you'll recognise what it means. Cognitively, you will get what it means. So the ones we need to be careful of then with the subjunctive are the ones which are irregular, the ones that sound nothing like the verb you're dealing with. So soit is be, face, there's an FA there, would you have possibly remembered F-A-I-R? Puisse, pouvoir. So this is the trick to learning these. You have to know these irregular subjunctives to connect to what they mean, okay? Good. Now, some final advice on doing the listening, okay? Generally, as a rule, listen to the vowels. So when you are speaking French, some of you have gotten really good, those of you that are working with me, or those of you that have sent me sound files. It's starting to sound really nice, guys. A lot of you are making some really good headway. But remember, it's all about the vowels. So when I'm talking to you now, I'm using quite a clean, crisp way of speaking in English because I want you to be able to understand me. I'm quite consonant. I have quite a neutral accent anyway, quite a clean accent in English. Obviously, there's plenty of very, very welcome, American listeners, and that's fantastic. And obviously there's kind of a way of the people who push their voice from different parts of the world, whatever their accent is, northern in English, or Welsh, or whatever's going on. There are people who speak differently and who speak a little bit less in the mouth. Great, you have an advantage, guys, yeah? Because proper formal British English is very much in the mouth and the teeth and all of this. And French won't be like this, okay? So you need to listen for these vowels that are coming out. Yes, moi j'ai pris, tu as dansé, il a rien, nanana. You've got to listen to the vowels. So focus on the vowels anyway, focus on the sound in the middle of the word, and your listening would generally be better. Next tip, don't be afraid to use fingers. If you heard two words, if I asked you to go from English into French using my methods, especially when you're a beginner, you'd be using 2 words for present, 2 words for was, 3 for the past, what am I doing, re, ra, ra. You'd be using all these symbols. Don't be afraid to do exactly the same thing. If you heard just something a, right, so I've got 2, so you've then got that time to work out, ooh, 2 was, so use the same systems that we're doing, okay? My final note is on written work that you are translating. Try as best you can not to memorise visually what things mean. So if you look at tenses, people often guess. Look for the same patterns, yeah? So if you're looking at a word that you pretty much recognise, but it's got an A on the end, we're probably going to be in was. If you've got I have and then a word that you recognise, it's probably going to be in the action past. If you've got a word you recognise, the verb you recognise, and then something on the end of the whole verb, so mangerai, mangera, if you just, not even on the sound, I mean, you know me, I try and encourage sound, but if you're reading, if you see the words you know, so for example, if we had, let's see where you can see this, if you had mangera, now you know visually at a scan what that means. You know the manger means to eat. So if you're seeing a word you know, plus something else on the end, what territory are we in if we've got the R's? We're in the will or the would. And if the bit at the end looks like a have verb, we are in will. And if the bit at the end looks like a was verb, we are in would. Okay? So let me think of any of the listening tips I can generally give you that are helpful. The first one is to practice as much as you can in your own speaking every single time you produce French material, and I accept that sometimes it comes a bit this word, then this word, then this word. Say it again and put the air in it. So if you've gone il a jamais dansé, he has never danced, you've got it, well done, you've worked out the sentence. Now go again and say it properly with the air. Il a jamais dansé, or il n'a jamais dansé. Now, why am I asking you to do this? And those of you that have lessons with me know this. I'm always asking you to push the breath. This is not to be annoying so that you sound more French. Where you're from is fantastic. It is so you are clearer in French, so people can understand you. I'm not asking you to try and pretend to be French. it also means you are developing your brain's way of hearing French. You need to be focusing on this vowel air speaking method, okay? Because otherwise you won't understand anything, okay? So this is another tip. Make sure you say out. People always go, oh, can I have some listening practice? Yes, fine, but can you also speak? And that is your own listening practice, okay? The next thing to remember, and possibly the final thing on this video when it comes to listening and it comes to the tenses, is regardless of the patterns, regardless of the methods, you just get down that certain things mean certain things. That's how cognitive language learning works. So you have to give yourself a couple of repetitions of the same thing. So I don't want you to be going, I go equals je vais. And those of you that work with me, those of you who work with me know that we don't do this. We'll say, okay, so je vais will make it feel its own word. Tu as, you have. Yeah, it will feel its own word. Once you've got an idea, every single time you go slowly, you know, read a sentence, say it to yourself, Luc a compris. Luc a compris. Feel it. Feel which tense it's in. Try and cut out the English. Try and make it mean something to you. Otherwise, you are permanently, with your listening, having to say the English, which won't work. It will slow you down. Okay? Now, some of you have got very good, and I can see when I work with you on Skype, we have this happening. Okay? So I see you creating the sentence with your eyes as you talk to me. No good, okay? Some of you have gotten very quick at doing that. I can see you physically writing the sentence with your eyes when you're speaking, and some of you even get by with that. But if you then have listening from other people, you get into that crazy situation where you're, hang on, I need a second, and you don't need to hear the French again. You just need a couple of seconds to then transcribe it. This is crazy. This is crazy. So you've heard it, your brain understood what it sort of meant, but you need a few seconds to work it out in English. No. Make it mean something to you directly, and do not visualize. Do not visualize. Do not visualize, okay? We've started to do some translation work in the translation series, and you're welcome to look at those. There's not many right now, but this is what I've asked you to write in for. That's great. But again, we go on sound, yada, 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 yada. Okay, I hope this video has been really useful. Can I ask you to subscribe if you haven't already to the channel? Please tell people about it. And please, by all means, keep practicing your listening. Final thing, listening is like a piece of music. Sometimes you can try and play the music, and sometimes you just want to listen to it to enjoy it. So go on YouTube. You're on YouTube. Go on YouTube. Find a TV show you like, a comedy, Will and Grace, Friends, whatever, a drama, yeah, Orange is the New Black, whatever's going on, you know, type something into YouTube and then type en français in French. And I guarantee you will find a show that you kind of know already, and people will be speaking in French. And this is fantastic because I just want you to sit and listen to try and differentiate between the sounds. So just to generally train your ear. Yes, separate to all of these systems that we've had, the present with the A and the soft hard, the past with the bum bum bum, the 1 2 3 with either be or have, the imperfect, the was with the A endings or the E on the EA, the future, reront, the would, the re or the re on the rie. We also had the future present and the conditional present, which is the one that went forward and then back, forward and then back. So if you've got this thing going on, okay, that's great, but just train your ear. Just listen and don't keep stopping. Don't keep looking at vocabulary. I couldn't speak English then. I'll teach you French, you guys teach me English. You need to just be training your ear. So whatever it is that interests you, please find it, okay? I look forward to seeing you soon. Please email me in the stuff you want translating, even if it's just an email in English you'd like translating, because we really want to get the translation series going, especially for those of you when you're back at school, college, university, what have you. Okay? I will speak to you soon. Take care. Let me know if this was useful.